Also, I mean, like, Nathan Drake's a man, so we're men as well, so we can say that, he wins because he's a man.
Okay.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I was gonna preface it by saying, like, this might be the most misogynistic thing I've said before, but, like, one's a man, one's a woman, like.
Which, again, if
they're both,
Nathan
like,
Drake,
fit. Like,
yeah.
If you take a really fit man and a really fit woman, make them fight, the odds are, scientifically, that the man's going to win.
Who did Nathan Drake and his brother get beat by?
Woman.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Makes no sense, but that's the rules of the world.
So. It makes sense.
No, it does not.
Nadine's a trained guerrilla fighter. Nathan Drake is just a dude who throws a punch.
If they made Nadine Abby build, yeah, definitely. But
she damn near is.
She is not even close
She's
to that.
ripped, bro. Have you seen Nadine lately?
Nadine?
That chick is fucking got muscles, bro.
Like, muscles in terms of, like, wow, you're really fit.
Abby's bigger, but Nadine is fucking... Nadine's like an MMA UFC boxer at the top of their game, bro. Nathan Drake is just a dude who knows how to throw a punch.
Oh, she's pretty tough. Still, though, like, against two guys.
She does not have an Abby
against
build.
two.
I'm looking at her right now.
Yeah, she's not that big. She's not like muscle bound. She's less than Abby.
Her and Abby could go. Well, she's got better training than Abby, but her and Abby could go at it, and like that would be a fight to actually see.
No,
Nadine, yes, it would.
Nadine, once again, you said she has combat skills. She's able to take two guys at the same time who are protagonists of. His brother could be as well.
Okay, but like Abby's out muscling either of the Drake brothers. Together, maybe they might take Abby out, but Nadine's wiping the floor with all of them.
All right, let's not make Laura Bailey fight herself, okay? Calm down.
Where is she fighting herself?
I don't know.
Laura Bailey
plays both characters.
And Abby.
Nadine, she did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Little yeah, it was a little like, why? But Naughty Dog got away with it.
She voiced both characters.
Weird.
Yeah, it is.
Huh,
they got a little bit of like a, why did you not hire a black woman? But everybody just
voice actors, I'm of the opinion that doesn't matter at that point.
No, it matters.
No, it doesn't.
I mean, it matters sometimes.
No, it matters.
It matters sometimes.
I'd say
certainly.
like a good 99% of the time it matters.
I think they should have hired somebody else for that role of Nadine.
It never is an aspect of her character besides just the physical appearance of her. With voice acting, you get around those kinds of
things. The half-baked accent that Laura Bailey throws out there.
She puts on an accent, yeah.
An accent?
Yeah, and it's not great because Nadine's South African.
It's supposed to be like South
Africa has white and black people.
It's not about skin color; it's about culture.
It's not. It's
but the culture never comes into play other than
yes, it does.
Like what? Like when?
Nadine's entire character, how she speaks, how she talks, how she sounds, how she moves. That's all South African, and Laura Bailey does not encapsulate that, as well as a actual South African actor.
The way you talk, the way you act, your like past experiences, that's your culture.
I get it, but then you're talking about something that's not explicit, because let's be honest here.
Pause. The reason you think it doesn't matter is because Laura Bailey didn't hit the mark.
I think it doesn't matter.
So now your perspective on that character is it's just some generic like trained militant or person, right? That's your perspective. But it should have been taken a step further, and it should be somebody else in that role who can actually portray a South African to its fullest extent.
So my counter to that is, what the fuck is
hate
South
to Laura
African?
Bailey.
No. What's a South African?
Laura Bailey does a great job, but like...
But what's a South African to you? Because you're saying like, oh, she's black and she's South African, so that matters, but South Africa has both blacks and whites now.
Again, it's not a color thing.
It's a culture. You're saying a cultural thing, so what aspects
Laura
of
Bailey's not South African, she's American. She's an American woman. She's a white American woman, which is another subculture under American, under woman, right? A black South African woman, Laura Bailey checks one of those boxes. And there are levels of subculture underneath that she does not have.
See, you're talking about subcultures. Tavin, I've known you for a long time. You don't know shit about South Africa culture inherently. You're just saying things and saying it sticks.
That's the point.
You have no clue.
The point is I don't know. That's the point. You get me? A South African would be more equipped to tell you where Laura Bailey's performance fell short. I can't tell you 100% because I don't know. But I guarantee you a South African person would.
You don't know, but you can guarantee me. So that makes no sense. You don't know what you're just going off of instinctually what you want to believe.
Connor, you were taking the dumbest fucking perspective you could possibly take. And you're a smart person. You should know better than this. You should know better than this.
You're still reading into features that you don't know anything about, so you can't say definitively that there's some key feature here that's like,
Am I going crazy here, Phil? Can you word this in a better way that can make him understand what the fuck I'm saying?
I don't know what I can do to explain it. I was just making the joke that Charlton Copley could explain because he's South African and he directed District 9. Chappie.
He did not. That was Neil Blomkamp.
Oh, sorry. No, he starred in both those movies. I should say.
Phil just chill and wait for the first punch to be thrown. I thought about it.
You did think about it? No?
Like, I've never seen you take this dumb of a perspective. This is straight up some fucking, like, that's borderline, like, oh, it's DEI, like, type.
Well, it's not DEI. It's just, in the realm of voice acting, that stuff matters a lot less unless there's a specific thing. Like, for example, South of Midnight. That's never matters. It never doesn't matter. Everything about that character is tied to not only Louisiana itself, but black culture in Louisiana.
Yeah.
Nadine, because as I described, her character is militant.
I'll remind you, a black South African character is a different culture than a black American character.
Oh, it certainly is. And I don't know what those differences are. If you're right, since you don't know what you're talking about entirely, I don't know what I'm talking about in the sense
that's what I was going to say. That, like, you're claiming me of ignorance and not knowing. You're at a deeper level of ignorance.
You're saying I'm a deeper level of ignorance because you think I'm wrong inherently, not because you know I'm in a deeper level of ignorance.
No, because I understand why it's important to have representation when you're representing certain cultures. I inherently understand the necessity to have that.
And that's what I'm talking. See, that's what the distance is, because I believe in that entirely. My criticism, because you say Nadine is South African, it's like you'd have to tell me that. Most people are not going to say, oh, Nadine, that South African character.
Says it in the game.
But like, when does it matter to a character besides that's just a description of her? Like,
the way she walks, the way she talks.
But how is that? What does that mean exactly? Because again, you don't know about South African culture. You're just ascribing that as a key feature of that kind of world.
You would have a better idea if Naughty Dog hired a South African woman,
and they didn't. So neither of us know what exactly is definitively how a South African should be acting.
That's the problem. That's why it matters.
That is the point.
Because you and I don't know. That could have been an opportunity for us to see and to find out
and learn.
And instead, they hired a white American woman.
If there's no difference, and even if they would incorporate that, because again, those aspects of her being South African didn't seem to matter. Besides, she's from there.
Okay, Connor, let me go play a fucking Jamaican then. Like, what are we talking about here? Let me go play a fucking Chinese person. But because it's a voice acting role, it doesn't matter. Just keep taking the logic forward.
You're talking about an accent.
Forward. You're not taking it further.
You're taking an accent that is applicable to both white people and black people in South Africa. Chinese, you can like
not just the accent. It's the whole culture.
You're not white taking people that are born in China.
Enough. Yeah, there are, but at the end of the day, when they're going to speak Chinese, you're not going to be differentiating them between an Asian and a white who speaks Chinese, unless you know exactly that they're white, or if one has not the same level of fluidity in speaking that language.
If I went into that Laura Bailey was not born in South Africa, she doesn't have that cultural experience. The point is, we're trying to have people that are experienced in the culture and that know about these things and give them the role.
See,
represent it.
The issue is that actors all the time do accents from other worlds. Britain and US, for example, all the time. You never parse of like, oh, well, these things in the way they perform, other than their accent, are different based on the different cultures they're representing.
Because those two cultures are so closely like tied together that you can put them in together.
And by that same token, due to the fact that South Africa had such a long period of apartheid, where I believe they were people who came from Britain, co-opted, colonized the country, it became very much intrinsically linked with those other countries. You're going
to tell me South African culture is just as close to our culture as a British culture?
No, because of the blend of the culture that was already there. So it makes it all different and makes it all more complex. But at the same time, they meld together where it's not so definitively, oh, this is how a black and South African walks or talks compared to a white one. I couldn't tell you that. I will claim ignorance that I don't know fully everything of what you're talking about in the depths of what would be represented in a character like Nadine.
So why are you arguing it?
Because it never seemed to be forward in any other way. Like, for example, if you take a character like, this is a really weird pool, Yasuke. He's the main character in the new Assassin's Creed Shadows, but I'm thinking of him because of his appearance in Neo, right? He comes in, and it's relevant what his story was, being a former slave. So if all of a sudden you were like, oh, this Yasuke character is voiced by a white guy or any person that's not black, it'd be incredibly weird because it's intrinsically linked to who his character is. If Nadine was like, my family had problems coming up because we were an oppressed group in a country. Immediately, I side with you and like, of course, you have to do not necessarily a South African black woman, but certainly a black woman.
But Connor, there are opportunities on set, and I'll remind you that Naughty Dog games are not just voiceovers; that they're motion captured, and they use the actors for motion and facial capture. Specifically, Uncharted 4 is when they started full facial capture.
Yeah.
And I'll remind you that if they had a South African woman on set in that role, that woman would have been able to help the direction of those scenes in order to incorporate those cultural differences better. But because they didn't, I don't want to say they fully didn't. They may have had a South African on set. I don't know. I don't know.
I wasn't there. Yeah.
I don't know the production of Uncharted 4 well enough to know. But I know Laura Bailey's not, so she could have had guidance, and that's fine if you have guidance. But wouldn't it have just been better to just hire at least someone who is from that culture to portray that role anyway? It's not like you couldn't find another role for Laura Bailey in that.
That gets to the question of, once again, the core of it. What cultural aspects are they trying to show with a character like Nadine that wasn't shown because of Laura Bailey?
And my point is, if you want to do that level of representation, do it. Don't half-ass it and just say it. I think, again, that bleeds into my point is they didn't do enough. Naughty Dog is in the wrong here. And for some reason, they just got away with it without controversy here.
Because I think at the core of it, because of what was going on that character and with that character,
no, it's because
it doesn't really matter.
People don't uphold the medium of video games to the level that they should, to the level of art that they should, right? And the level of real world reality that they do. Uncharted takes place in a real world. All of these cultures exist within that world, right? So those cultures should be represented by people of the culture. And Naughty Dog chose not to do that. Now, Laura Bailey's a talented enough actor and a smart enough woman that she at least went and got a dialect coach and did a fairly decent job with the accent and stuff. But I guarantee you that there were reactions, moments where you could have seen actual South African culture embedded in the character naturally if there was a South African woman in that role.
Well, they clearly weren't going for that. That wasn't a thought when they were making that character.
And that's a bad thing.
Right. I think it's more insignificant than you're making it out to be.
No, don't use the word insignificant. Your perspective is that the creator didn't take it because it wasn't the focal point of the story. My point is the creator was wrong for even doing it in the first place. Not wrong for doing it in the first place. Let me clarify that. For the creator was wrong for not dipping into the culture in a tangible way and bringing that forward in order to actually have it. Nadine didn't have to be South African, right? It's nice that we even had the opportunity to have that type of character in there, but you didn't take it far enough because you wanted to hire your friend Laura Bailey, right? Because Laura Bailey can obviously do the very dominant woman very well, the very I'm going to beat your ass up woman very well. Laura Bailey can clearly do that very well, right? But Laura Bailey is not a South African woman, and you're telling me you couldn't find a South African woman who could also portray that same level of talent? No, you can't tell me that. So the whole point is yes, Uncharted does not push forward South African culture in it, but the actor, the performer, the person portraying that role could have pushed that to the forefront of the character to where the two things are inseparable. The problem is, you're correct. Those two things are separate. You can separate those two things of Nadine, the character, in South African culture. My point is, you should not... I'm sorry for spitting.
No, I didn't spit on me.
Right. My point is you should not be able to separate them. And you can argue, it doesn't matter all that much to Uncharted and that. But if you really want the art to be real, you can't have them be separated.
Sure. And does it matter to the overall plot of Uncharted 4? No. But we're saying in order to push that, to have a more, I think, a deeper
understanding
piece of art as a whole, and kind of have a more inclusive kind of I don't know, to have a deeper piece of art as a whole, I think is where I kind of should have ended there. Just to have all the different cultures, more cultures represented in what they wanted to do. Like Tavin said, she didn't have to be South African. They chose to make her South African and did not hire a South African actress to portray her. And we as the audience missed out on the opportunity to possibly learn more about South African culture from a first-person perspective, or maybe not a first-person perspective, but from Nadine's perspective as the character, and learn more about her and the culture as a whole. If we had the actress being
to that end, though, it seems like that would just be a matter of changing how the character itself is handled, not the voice actor.
Sure, yeah, but the point is if you want to represent other cultures and do it right, you have to include that culture. You can't do it in a vacuum.
But see, that's the thing. It wasn't trying to represent that culture. It seems like it's just saying
inherently it is because they made that character that.
But once again,
if they made Nadine, because Nadine initially in the concept art is an American, right? And if they had gone that route, then there's no problem here. You know, you get a little critique for for having an all white cast again.
I see.
You know, but they made the choice to have inclusion or they made a choice to have representation, but they didn't include the culture to actually have full representation. It's fake representation. It's putting on a show.
I see.
Instead of actually imbuing the art with reality.
See, my core issue stems from this idea that I've seen a lot of recently, which is if there's a character who is of a certain race, in no circumstance whatsoever should they be played by a person who's not of that same race. Now, typically the way I see it manifested is in reality, is this character, if it's a black character, if it's an Asian character, anyone who's not white people cannot voice them, but they're free game for anybody else. Someone I think of most recently is Pros D. I know you know that is, Phil.
Prozidi.
Prozidi, yeah.
Yeah, he's a racist. I think it's pretty definitive to say. Two reasons why. Yeah.
What?
It's not in like a serious way because he's racist against white people. And as white people, we can say like, who gives a shit? No institutional level is really affecting me here. Two reasons why. One of which was he was arguing for what I just said.
You're being a little extreme and racist.
I was going to say, I don't know about him being a racist.
Unless there's like some quote where he's like saying that, like he like saying
I haven't heard anything like that.
I'll go with the stronger argument that's not attached to video games because he got a lot of flack for this, where he basically was saying, white people putting soy sauce on rice he's saying that's incredibly white, and only white people do that. And his mentions were effectively flooded with people, primarily I believe in South Asian countries, that were just like, no, you idiot, we have traditional dishes that are about white rice or rice of some sort with soy sauce. And they were showing pictures of it and whatnot. And it was this immediate like, if you put soy sauce on your rice, because that's not something that I'm familiar with in my culture, you're just acting white. And he completely just disregarded other Asian people in the pursuit of, I guess
I don't know what this is. I googled ProZD racist and I don't see anything.
Yeah, I mean, because it's not like, again, it's not in a way where you're like, this guy, like, he was discriminating against these people. I don't like it. I don't like it one bit at all. He hasn't done anything of that nature, especially because he's not in a position of power. It's more just like little nitpick. This is a nitpick argument I have. It's not like this is a cultural change that must stop right now.
This is a weird example that you're pulling. I think it's weird that you called him a racist.
Well, to go to voice actors, he was complaining that, white people shouldn't be able to voice people of certain races. And then afterwards, he was complaining that people were going to him solely for Asian races rather than playing anybody else. So he kind of wanted to have his cake of being able to voice anybody, while specifically white people should be able to only voice white people. And if someone does that to him, well, all of a sudden, this is a problem.
Right, but... I think his point is that he can't have a non-Asian character, like from the soil Asian, like, and he can play an American.
Yeah, he can.
Because he's American.
Yeah, of course.
Right. Like, and that I assume is what he's talking about, is what I mean, I'm taking inference based off of a thing that you're already paraphrasing.
And this was years ago, too. So it's not, again, it's not like
and he could change, like.
Could have, yeah.
Listen, man, I grew up around actors, I know actors or whatever. Actors typically attract a lot of LGBT type people. A lot of those LGBT BTQ plus people get typecast as that, because that's who their personality is. And when you're a young actor, it's hard for you to grow and portray other things other than that, right? And for a gay role, you want a gay person in there, right? Again, because of representation and inclusion being actually true. Now, is it 100% necessary? Can a straight person play a gay person respectfully? Yes, but you should have people around you to make sure that you're actually representing those cultures correctly.
Speaking of someone who's bisexual, like if we're talking in that terms of things, seriously, I've never really been a strong one to be like, this is gay culture and I identify with it. So from that frame of reference, it's like, well, sure, you could include those kinds of things, but it's not necessarily a necessary all-encompassing function.
Yes. And here's I'm gonna tread lightly here. Mm-hmm. You, yes, a bisexual man, do not live in the world of queerness.
No.
Like, at all. But there are people who do, and who are proud of it and want to live by that. And so a queer actor should play that. Can a straight man play you no problem? Yeah, a straight man can play you no problem, right? But that's because you typically still carry yourself like you're a straight white American male.
And that kind of feeds back into the core argument of what I was making before, which is that Nadine doesn't have any of those defining features. Then now, again,
Which is a problem because she is hardline South Africa.
I can understand what you're saying, that we don't exactly know what features would have come out in the game.
Sorry,
I agree with that.
I'm laughing because while y'all are talking, Enrique just DM'd me on Twitter.
What'd he say?
He's saying, "Hey, how you been, Phil? How was your day?"
So I guess that's an argument. That's a key to show that this has probably gone on too long.
I don't know what I do with this. Like
Break it out. Hey, this is
part of it's like a breakout, but I don't know. I don't even know if I want like this to be the culture of what we talk about. But this is like a general stance that
It's an
we
aspect
generally take of like,
Yeah.
hey, if you're going to represent somebody, you should have inclusion in that, like actual inclusion to that. Like I forget what the turn of phrase is. It's like representation without inclusion is not real representation. Something along those lines, right?
Mhm.
So it's just like that Uncharted 4 is an example. I think, unless they had actual South Africans on set, and I don't know. Uncharted 4 is an example of that, of where they had representation without inclusion, because inclusion comes equity. And that's where it's even more important, is you got to pay these people, you got to pay them correctly, because, just using them is inherently white supremacy, because you're just using them for their culture to benefit yourself.
yeah, I see that. Makes sense.
I think this is overall this is a good discussion topic.
Yeah.
I'll leave for you to do what you will with the edit there, Tavin.
I recommend you get out.
I also want to cut around to make Connor seem a little more appeasable, because I don't know.
No, show it as is. That's I said my opinions the way I did. It's kind of misrepresentation to say like, oh well, he was actually saying it this way that's more appeasable to the person that's listening to this. At the end of the day, I'm confident that I have no issue with anybody of any kind of race or nationality. So, people.
Yeah,
can
And I know you don't. It's just, I don't know. And maybe this can also just be taught of as a teaching lesson. And I guess in the grand scheme of cultures, and I hate to say it, culture wars, because I think that's fucking stupid. The
stupid when they happen.
The faux culture war that I'm not talking literal war. I'm talking about the faux political landscape where a bunch of these fucking internet dwellers who aren't out of their mom's basement and their fucking bedroom is disgusting.
Internet. The problem is DEI. No, I'm lying.
Yeah, like those guys. Yeah, like the whole like, oh, DEI woke, kill it, like type shit. Yeah, you guys are fucking. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. You're morons.
There was a really funny with the Super Bowl happening. Ray.
And just because you're a moron doesn't mean you can't educate yourself and be better.
No, I couldn't. I'm fine without the hug. I'll hug you regardless, though, just in general. The two characters were Laura Croft versus Nathan Drake.
And before I end the recording, I want to put out there real quick. There was some yelling back and forth and talking over each other and all. These are not like this is just a passion that's being played through, not like a trying to dominate the other one and not let them get a word in and this, that, and the third. It's just passion coming through. And let's be honest, the natural state of how real world conversations play out. Real world conversations don't play out like a political debate where this person gets a certain amount of time and that person gets a certain amount of time to rebuttal and this, that, and the third. That's not how the real world conversation
I believe I was mentioned. I should be able to rebuttal that for the next 30 seconds.
That's also boring too.
It is also boring. Yeah. Real conversation doesn't work that way. If you actually listen to the full conversation, which I hope you did if you got to this part of the video, if I even put this out.
Water spill.
If you got to this point, you could see that there was a clear consensus and understanding that was reached, and maybe there's more of one that can be reached with further conversations of this type later on. The point is to not get overly disrespectful and to know when a line is about to be or is crossed.
Plus, we're all best friends, so
we are also best friends. I made the joke of like thinking about punching Connor in the face earlier. I mean, we punch each other all the time because we like fuck around because we're friends like that, right?
And
but I was never going to actually enact violence upon it. There's that camera, idiot.
Do the thing.
Oh yeah. No, I need to blink like I am one of those POWs. Send help.
Yeah, can I get 2 large cheese pepperonis? What? Anyways, all of that to be said, I love this guy. From my perspective, he spoke from a place of ignorance, but I think we helped
correct it to a more.
I think we helped battle through some of that in that, and in that, I speak from ignorance too. I spoke from ignorance in this conversation.
Ignorance
you don't listen. When you're in a conversation, you don't have the power of Google.
Newsflash, humans are ignorant of something.
I'd also like to give Naughty Dog and Sony Corp the benefit of the doubt and assume that they had somebody on set during the process of Uncharted 4, but I don't know. So,
But we
anyways,
weren't there,
We weren't there. Anyways, bye.